Hi. I know it's not ideal that I recorded in my car, but I wanted to talk about this because it just happened and it's fresh and I'm driving. So we're going to do this. Um, I'm a mom. I know I've mentioned in my other videos I have 3 children. My oldest is an 11-year-old daughter. Today I pick her up from school. We're going to grab a bite to eat. I'm sitting down asking her how her day is. She brings up a friend that I'm aware of this friend. I know who this friend is in class. It's a boy. So she brings up this friend and she says, yeah, he got into a fight. And I'm like, what? No, she's in 6th grade. And I mean, granted, when I was in 6th grade, that's another story. But the kids nowadays, they don't really fight. Like I grew up, we fought. And I feel like kids nowadays, they don't fight, which is fine. Okay. Yeah. Like self-defense is one thing. So I'm like, fighting? Like, who is he fighting? And this is like the 3rd fight I've heard about from this kid in a matter of, I don't know, maybe like a month or 2. So I'm like, what's going on with him? I'm like, he's such a good kid. Why is he getting into these fights? What's up? And she's like, oh, because he sticks up for people. And he sticks up for himself. And I'm like, honey, that doesn't really make sense. Like, can you explain more to me about this? So she's like, well, you know, anytime anybody gets bullied or anything like that, he's the first person to stick up for people. And that's what happened. He went and he stuck up for, you know, one of their friends that was getting bullied, and he wound up getting into a fight with 2 other boys. And the background behind this friend, from what my daughter has told me, is that he doesn't have a good relationship at home with his stepfather, and he feels like he's not wanted in the family. And these were like words, you know, in his expression of how he feels. So in that moment, I said to my daughter, you know, he's the one who has the issues at home that you were telling me about. She's like, yeah. So I'm just like reiterating this with her. And then I'm like, that makes him very upset and very mad, right? And she's like, yeah. And this particular kid, a little bit more background, about 3 weeks ago had made a statement in school that he didn't want to live anymore. And there's a crisis team that's called when this happens. And the crisis team came to the school, and then later that night went to the house to speak to him and his parents and the family dynamic. So, you know, the kid he's got a lot going on. It's a lot for him to handle. So now he's getting into fights and all this stuff. So I said to my daughter, do you think that maybe he's acting that way because he feels like when he's at home, nobody's protecting him? And first she was quiet. She was just kind of like looking at me. But I talk, so I'm going with the flow. And then I also dropped the bomb about how, you know, it's not a bad thing to want to protect somebody, because you know how it feels to be on the other side of that and have somebody bullying you or picking on you. But there's an element of anger that is dwelling in him. And that element of anger is because of his home experience, and how this home experience, I didn't use the word hypervigilant, but I'll use it here, is his hypervigilant response to the people in his surrounding class or whatever it is he sees. So I said, when you have that underlying element of anger and you want to protect other people, it comes out wrong. And it comes out where you're fighting and you're this and you're that. And I said, but you can advocate and you can stick up for people without having to get physical, without, you know, getting into trouble. And I said, does that make sense? And she's sitting there and she's like, yeah, like with this look. And I'm like, but why do you look like, what's with the look if it makes sense? And she goes, it makes a little too much sense. And I think she was impressed with the fact that she was able to comprehend and understand what I was saying, but also being able to use like her own self-awareness and her own self-reflection to understand his situation and how that's projecting outward. So I was really, really proud of her. And I was actually so excited when she answered me that way, because I feel like I talk to my daughter a lot and I try to make her understand things from other people's perspectives. Like I always want to make sure she sees things in the multifaceted way that life is. I don't ever want her to feel like she's restricted and, you know, there's all these boundaries that life has against her or has, you know, upon her. So for her to be able to understand that, to grasp that, because that's like some root work, you know. That's great. I was just so happy and proud of her for getting it. But the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I've only been this way the past couple years, because it was once I started trying to understand life for myself that I was able to internalize it and then figure out a way to express it to my children. So I'm a huge advocate for that, and I feel like children need to be given the tools on how to deal with emotions. You know, this is stuff that's not taught in school. But in these moments where I'm having my daughter reflect on something through one of her friends, it's a lot easier for children to see things through other people, through their friends, through, you know, dynamics, through parents, right? It's that learned behavior. And they can sympathize easier a lot of times with their friends. So the fact that she's able to sympathize with her friend in that moment and kind of see where his overprotective nature comes from and how it comes from a good place, right? But it is being expressed in a very bad way is huge. It is freaking huge. So I wanted to share it, and I am proud of my baby girl. And yeah, I just hope that this inspires someone to be this way with their children. Because like I said, I wasn't always like that, and I am now, and it pays off beautifully, really beautifully. And at the end of the day, it's really our kids who benefit from this. So if I do something and my kids benefit from that, of course I'd want to share that. It might not apply to everybody, but for the ones that it does apply for, it's huge. So thank you for hearing me out, and I'm sending you